Buster has quite a career in driving race cars, midgets and sprint cars in the 30s and the 40s and into the 50s. And when that came to an end, Buster became a mechanic at Indianapolis, working on Indy cars, and really was one of the forerunners of the race car restoration wave that took place a few years ago. He's done some marvelous race car restorations. But I've always had interest to find out how a young fellow from Walnutport winds up getting in the seat of a sprint car right out of the box with a great race car. How did you accomplish doing that, and what was the reason that got you out of Walnutport and over to Long Island?
Well, in 1932, I went to Curtis Wright Aviation School, and while I was there, I met up with Milt Marion and became a flunky, you know, parts washer and stuff, and that's how I got started.
How did you meet your first sprint car owner?
Walt Killinger came in from Denver, and I got to know him and in 1934, and when he came back in 35, I told him I sure would like to drive that car, and he had a deal to take the car to Charleston, West Virginia, and he had no driver, and he said I could drive it. And that's how I got started.
And he actually paid you for this. This was even a better deal than one might think. You know, these were in the days when race drivers actually got paid for their services. So you went from working on airplanes to a professional race driver in one fell swoop with a pretty darn good race car running nationally known events.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I started out on the top.
When you had your every Sunday or every Saturday sprint car ride, you spent a good bit of time also running the midgets.
Oh, yeah.
What took you toward running midgets as well as the sprinters?
Well, the midgets ran during the week, you know. At one time there, we could run 6 nights a week, you know, and run the sprint car on the weekends.
You also made a trip to Buenos Aires in 1938, and a couple years back, about 1983, I went with a group that ran midgets in National Stadium in Kingston, Jamaica, and I felt that was a big deal, and I'm sure you feel the same way about your Buenos Aires trip in 1938.
Oh yeah, that was great. We went down there on a got so much a week, guarantee, and I was fortunate enough that I made over my guarantee every week that we ran there, but the track was in the wrong part of town. It was sort of the Harlem section of town, and
was this Hurricane Stadium then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bicycle track. It was very fast.
And who was the promoter down there? Was that Alvarez?
There was a guy by the name of Coco who was a millionaire, and Ted Allen from 3A. There were about 4 or 5 guys got together, had this idea, and I thought at first it would go over. Got Tyrone Power as a movie actor as honorary starter, and then his girlfriend Annabelle was honorary starter one night, and for a while it went over real good, and then it tapered off, and they couldn't come up with a purse anymore.
So it was either go to Buenos Aires or stay around here and shovel snow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a logical choice to me. I'd head for the ship myself. You know?
It was a very good deal.
When everything went pretty well down there until toward the end, I think you had one night you'd rather forget down there.
Yeah, they started Ted Hartley and I in the last row of an 8-car heat, and there was one chauffeur from South America that drove, and he spun just as Hartley was going by him, and I had the misfortune to run over his left rear wheel with my right front one, and I went outside the ballpark like a big swan. I went out there and landed on my head and shoulder. It messed me up pretty good.
Coming back to the sprint cars, and obviously by by December of 1941, the United States is at war, but racing continued until about July of 42, correct?
Yeah, 4th of July, 1942, they shut racing off. We ran Birmingham, Alabama. Well, that was the last race.
And at that point, you went into the service?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
naturally, with all your background in aircraft mechanics and race car mechanics, they put you involved with a fighter squadron, of course.
No, they put me in the infantry.
Yeah, that seems like a logical choice that would be made there. Yeah, that's true. So yeah.
I was ready to quit and go home, but they wouldn't let me.
Yeah, no sense of humor. We went to North Africa, and where'd you go during the service?
Oh, I went to North Africa, to Sicily, to Italy, to Sardinia, to Corsica, France, Germany, Belgium. 33-month, all expense paid tour.
Brought home a couple medals as well. I'm sure you're proud of those, and of course everyone thanks you for your service there. But the problem was to get out of the service.
Yeah, damn it, they wouldn't let me out.
Well, you're a pretty valuable guy, I'm sure, but there was races to be run in 1945. Come September, racing gets back into play, and how long do they keep you?
Till December. November of that year. I got out just before bear season.
Well, there's something to be said for bear season, but that's a good deal. Now, when you get out of the service, 1946, and this is where we're going to begin our slideshow tonight, basically spent 1946 running with IMCA.
Right.
And I think if we get going here, we'll start with our first slide, and we've got a picture of the 93 Sprinter, Jimmy Wilburn's car, headed off to Mitchell, Indiana, and
right.
there's 93s on the trailer, 39s in the race car. Ethel costs 20.5 cents a gallon, and all's well with the world. And your ride's the number 39, which is the older car.
Right.
But just let us know a little bit about those two race cars.
Well, Wilburn was driving the 39 for Ralph Morgan, and when Morgan decided to go out of racing, why Wilburn bought the 39, and he ran it, and then he built a new car, the 93, and I was to drive the old one, which was basically the same car. It was a lot of horsepower and a light automobile. It was really a fast piece of machinery.
Now here's the garage, a public garage, I guess. You guys kept the cars.
It was they kept the cars in the basement, left them down with a winch, and the shop was downstairs. Well-equipped shop.
That seems to be a pretty popular deal. I know the Gordon racing team kept them in the second floor here in Allentown. They winched them upstairs. You guys took them downstairs. It seemed like that was out of the way. Lots of good space to work, and winching cars around seemed to be the rule as opposed to not. Now here's the Don Smith car. That's a 6-cylinder inline Curtiss airplane engine.
Yeah, that was a car that Ben Shaw built with all 6 cylinders. Gave him 540 cubic inches.
540 cubic inches.
Right.
All in a row. How did that car handle?
Well, it was pretty much of a handful because it had so damn much horsepower. It was really something to beat, but it was something to handle too.
But a lot of dust. Is that something that most of the racetracks had?
They were usually pretty dirty.
I mean, how'd you get navigating around a half mile with that kind of dust?
Well, I'll tell you, the worst one I think was Altamont, New York, and then to see where you turned into the first corner, you watched the roof of the grandstand. When the roof ended, why you turned left.
And did somebody tell you about this, or did you figure that out by yourself?
Tommy told me.
See, that was the secret. So all these times he's watching the roofs, and everybody else is trying to find their way around the racetrack, and he's looking at trees and grandstand roofs and little tricks of the trade. It's an amazing situation. You can't those of us that have had a brownout in dirt track racing, it's a phenomenal thing. The car's still going as fast as it always was, and your visibility is like zero. It's not a great situation there. There's a Lee Wallard at Reading, 1951, and that should have been a very happy moment in Lee Wallard's life, because he had just won Indianapolis. You couldn't make it any happier than that, and the day certainly turned around from there.
The float gave trouble in the carburetor and flooded the cockpit, and caught fire, burnt Wallard real bad.
I guess he spent most of the year recovering from that, and
yeah, he never made it back as a race driver then.
Now that's your champ car. This is 1950.
Yeah, I drove it for Walter Pugh, whose father was in Sun Oil, and this was the original Curtis Craft championship car.
Well, here's Dwayne Carter, and he's found a friend at Williams Grove. That's Ruby.
Yeah.
So, do you allow Ruby to hang around with race drivers? I mean, that's probably not the best thing, but...
I was okay.
Okay, all right. Well,
she could take care of herself.
Okay, as long as there's supervision there, well, that's perfectly fine. We're going to go from here over to Monza, and that was quite an experience to take the Indy cars to Monza, Italy, and you went in 1958.
58. I went over there. They went over in 57 first time. I went over in 58, and it was quite a track. The first corner is on steel framework, concrete slabs on steel framework, but the G-forces moved the concrete, so it made it very rough in the first corner, and a lot of cars broke suspension parts.
And if we're looking at some of the films of more recent films, if you recall the movie Grand Prix with James Garner, that big high banking that they show it, that's Monza.
Right.
That's so. I mean, it gives you an idea of the speed at which they're running around at Monza. And at this part of the point in time, A.J. Foyt's, frankly, a young kid looking for to get his feet wet in
Yeah.
Indianapolis cars. I mean, he doesn't have 4 rings on his fingers or anything. He's really a rookie at this. And how did he wind up getting in the seat?
Well, actually a guy by the name of Swenson, who was a shock absorber man from Hudai, recommended him, and I told Slavy I think we'll put him in, and we put him in for the last 2 legs of the race, and he did very well.
Now you're still active in going to vintage car meets. In fact, I guess next month we're going to go to Loudon, and they've got you going to work at Loudon. They're going to be the head guy at this year's Loudon.
Yeah, what did they call me, the Grand Marshal or something?
Well, they've called you a lot of things, but I think they've called you the Grand Marshal this year, and that's a terrific honor, and it's a lot of fun for those of us who are in this A business, B hobby, with the racing business and the hobby of restoring some of these race cars, to have you around, and we certainly appreciate your expertise. And thanks so much for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
Okay, thanks.